So in this video, I'm going to be revealing to you my entire superannuation balance that I've been growing ever since I started my first job back when I was 18. I'll also share with you the details about the superannuation fund that I'm with, what investments my money is invested into, and then share a little bit about my plan and strategy for my superannuation moving forward. Hopefully in this video, I'll be able to pass on and share some lessons that I've learned along the way with regards to managing my own superannuation. So regardless of whether or not you're a beginner who's just starting to look into their own superannuation, or if you're a seasoned pro, hopefully, fingers crossed, there'll be something in this video that you can learn from. Now, a quick disclaimer before we head into the video. This video shouldn't be taken as financial advice. It should be taken as purely as information/entertainment purposes only. Now, I know that the ASIC has implemented some regulations last year to try and prevent financial influencers from talking about their own investments, as it may, I guess, sway their audience, but I'm not too sure yet if I can be classified as a financial influencer yet. I'll let you guys be the judge of that. But overall, I think it's a good thing to be talking about money. I think overall it's a net positive. So with that out of the way, let's get straight into the video. So my current superannuation balance is just at around about $117,000. And in the current financial year, it's made around about $6,500, so around 5.5% return, which isn't so bad given the current economic climate that we've been in. And overall, since joining the fund back in May of 2018, my investment return has just been around about $20,000, which I think is a pretty good. So I think I'm pretty happy with the returns that I've received so far. Now, you might be thinking that I guess a superannuation balance of $117,000 is quite high, either compared to yourself or compared to someone else around my age. And there actually has been a lot of research done in terms of the average superannuation balance by age. And the general consensus is that if you're someone who is male and in the early to mid 30s, on average, you should have around about $50,000 in your super. So I guess compared to the average, I am doing pretty well. And this isn't me trying to flex at all, but just to provide you, I guess, with a little bit more context as to how I got to this situation. I've been working full time now for around about 9 years. And I would say for the past 5 to 6 years, I have in some way, shape or form been salary sacrificing into my superannuation. I probably wasn't as consistent earlier on, but I would say for the past 2 to 3 years, I have been very consistently kind of salary sacrificing into my super, which we will talk about on later on in the video. So my super is currently with Australian Super, and I've been with them for around about 5 years now. And prior to that, I was actually with Telstra Super because my first corporate job out of university was with Telstra. Now, if you didn't know, whenever you start a new job, if you don't, I guess, let them know where you want your super to be paid to, that company will automatically set you up with a new account with whichever fund that they've partnered or affiliated with. So if you're someone who has worked multiple jobs already and this is the first time you're looking into your superannuation, you should really be consolidating all of your super funds into one single fund. Otherwise, you're paying fees, multiple times. So when I first started my job at Telstra, I didn't really think about my superannuation, nor did I really care, just because it was, something to do with retirement so far away. So it was kind of, I guess, the last thing on my mind. But choosing the right super fund is actually extremely important, and choosing the wrong super fund could cost you tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars when it comes to your retirement. Now, broadly speaking, there are 5 different types of super funds out there. The first one is known as an industry super fund, and an industry super fund is a profit for member fund. So meaning they typically will have lower fees in general because their aim isn't to make a profit. Secondly, we have retail funds, and these are funds that are run by the big banks and large investment institutions. And these funds are run for a profit, so they typically will have higher fees associated with them. Next, we have public sector funds, and these are funds set up specifically for government employees. And then there's also corporate funds, which have been funds that have been set up by large Australian corporations. So Telstra Super would be classified as a corporate fund. And then lastly, we have self-managed super funds, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's essentially a fund that is managed by yourself. Now, if you weren't sure as to which super fund you should be investing into, let's look at a report that was commissioned by the government that looked into the productivity of super funds over the past decade. The report found that on average, over the past 13 years, not-for-profit industry funds generated materially higher net returns than retail funds. And it also found that whilst the fees of retail funds have declined over the years, they still remain materially higher in comparison to not-for-profit funds. And I quote, "Fee revenues among not-for-profit funds such as industry, corporate, and public sector funds have historically been and remain well below that of retail funds." So it should be pretty straightforward that industry super funds are the fund to go with, as not only do they provide materially higher returns, but they also charge less fees as well. Now, to find an industry super fund, you can either go to the industry super fund website where they kind of list out all the available funds, or if you just want to check if your fund is an industry super fund, you can also go to the website, and if they have this kind of logo on it, then you're good to go. If you've ever seen an ad with regards to industry super funds, then you'll probably recognize the logo. Now, with Australian Super, I am 100% invested into their high growth option, which is roughly 90% growth assets and 10% defensive assets. Now, the default option that you'll be put into when you join a superannuation fund is their balanced option, which is roughly 80% growth assets and 20% defensive assets. But in my opinion, if you're in your 20s, 30s, or even 40s, investing into a high growth option that is more heavily weighted into growth assets simply makes more sense. Essentially, the longer your investment horizon is, the riskier you want your allocation to be. Even though a high growth option is riskier, the expected return is also higher as well. And because our investment horizon is so long, this actually means that the risk is overall significantly lower. So my plan and strategy moving forward with my superannuation, as boring as it may sound, is to simply continue what I have been doing so far. And that is to invest 100% of my money into a high growth option and then continue to salary sacrifice into my super as well. But one of the things that I have considered doing is actually moving my money out of the pre-mixed high growth option and then moving that into a portfolio that I create myself that is made up of Australian shares and international shares that is indexed. Pre-mixed high growth options tend to have higher fees, ranging anywhere from 0.6% all the way up to 1%. And if you didn't know, all of these pre-mixed options are pretty much actively managed funds, meaning that Australian Super and all the other superannuation funds out there employ fund managers to decide, which assets the fund invests into. And over the long term, it's been proven that most fund managers can't even beat the index. So why pay significantly more fees when I can just have my money invested into an index tracking ETF that will never underperform against the market and is significantly cheaper to run as well? There was a comparison done on Reddit which compared the fees involved with investing your money with an industry super fund with a portfolio made up of 40% Australian shares indexed and 60% international shares indexed. We can see that if you had a $500,000 portfolio, if you invested your money with Host Plus, you'd only be paying $378 per year in fees. Now, if we compare that to what I paid in fees last year to Australian Super, in total, I paid $778 in fees for a superannuation balance that was 80% less. So yeah, I might be swapping over sooner rather than later. So I probably will be changing how my money is invested in my superannuation moving forward, but it will still be a high growth option as it'll still be probably made up of 90% or even 100% of growth assets. Now, when it comes to salary sacrificing, this won't change at all. In each paycheck, I will salary sacrifice a portion of my salary into my superannuation. Now, salary sacrificing is essentially taking your pre-taxable income that your employee pays you and then directing that straight into your superannuation fund. So this will mean that your take-home pay every single time will be a little bit lower. Now, the biggest reason as to why you might want to consider salary sacrificing is because it can reduce your taxable income, meaning you can pay significantly less tax at the end of the year. And this is because your superannuation is considered a tax favorable environment, because any money that goes into your superannuation is only ever going to be taxed at 15% compared to your marginal tax rate. So for example, let's say you earn $100,000 per year. This means that your marginal tax rate is 32.5%. And you decide to salary sacrifice an additional $5,000 each year into your superannuation. Now that $5,000, when it goes into your superannuation, will only be taxed at 15%. So you'll pay $750 in taxes on that $5,000. But if you instead said, screw that, I want to keep that $5,000, I want to use it right now, then it's going to be taxed at your marginal tax rate of 32.5%, meaning you'll pay taxes of $1,625 as opposed to the $750 in the super. So by choosing to salary sacrifice, you're effectively saving an additional $875 or 17.5%. And as your marginal tax rate increases, to 37% or 45%, the amount of money that you'll save by salary sacrificing into your superannuation will only increase as well. Now, whether or not you actually salary sacrifice is entirely up to you and your own personal circumstances. There's pros and cons to both, and I've actually done a full video talking about salary sacrificing before, so if you want, you can check out that video after this. Now, that is all I had for you guys in this video. If you enjoyed the video, learned something new, or found any value at all, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future. Now that I've revealed my superannuation portfolio, should I reveal the rest of my investment portfolio? Let me know down in the comments if you'd like to see that video. And before you move on, if you are looking to change your superannuation, check out this video which talks about the top 5 superannuation funds in Australia.